Everybody, welcome back. We're doing another Marvel Future Revolution video. In this one, we are going to be doing a build guide specific to Captain America, specific to player versus environment, or PvE. Special shout out to JS and Nanep. Talked to both those guys a little bit about these builds. There are some intricacies about this build that I want to go over, and I'll share with you guys a little bit. So let me know what your thoughts are at the end of this. If you got something different, obviously some of these builds can vary dramatically depending on situations, sometimes min-maxing, etc. But I think this will be a good guide for you to at least start with, or sort of try to change some things if you haven't used these before. So if you're new to the channel and you like what you see, want to hammer down like button, always appreciate you. All right, let's check it out.
Bring me WolverThor!
All right, quick version up over here. All right, I like to throw these up here real quick. We'll have this graphic on the Discord in the MFR resources. So if you want to follow along in the Discord, check the description below. And if you want to follow along in that specific channel, you can link that to your Discord as well if you so choose. So you can see the skill builds there. We like to do the 1A, 1B, 1.7, all the, I'll explain that a little bit in the video here so that you can see what these things mean. If you see an ability off to the side like that, that is something that you could sort of sub in. Same thing with the specs. We'll go over those a little bit in those sections. We got the companions and the gear as well. Hopefully this helps you give a generic guide to the character if you're trying to just get the quick idea what you want to do. And let's go through some of the specifics. All right, first, all right, when I was talking A, B, C, D, or in 7, the way this works is you got 1 here, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, and then when you see A, B, C, D, so if someone says 5, and then, so for instance, 5B, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A, B. All right, so anyway, that's how that works. So first ability we got on this PvE one is a shield absorption, shield slice. In this particular one, I've got it in the first slot. Just does damage into some bleed damage, 571. It's a short cooldown, 9 seconds. Pretty solid. And nothing really exciting other than it does decent damage. The second ability here that we've got, another shield absorption skill. This one's called Forefront. It charges towards an enemy while holding up the shield 2 times in a row. There's a 1261% damage here. And pushes back the target. You are untargetable during this. All right, this could play it into PvP later, but it's a different video. I didn't put it on the graphic, but I do want to say that there is some thought here that you might want to consider this ability as well. It's a little bit shorter cooldown, but doesn't hit as hard. So I think that just depends on preference, what you think, but that is one that we did talk about as well. I'll save that one just for the video. So the third spot here, which is our 1B, this one in particular, it originally was, when I was just talking to one of these guys, was the barricade ability here. But given this is a PvE build and you tend to want to care more about your damage output, generally speaking, threw this one in here. And this also pairs up with a specialization as well, which we'll get to when we get to that. So we chose this one, the Power Up Punch, which goes ahead and hits for about 829% damage, 14-second cooldown, 26 stam. Pretty strong hit there. Coming in the 4 slot, we've got another shield absorption skill. And by the way, this is a hand-to-hand combat one. This one here, and that's important. In the 4 slot, we have another shield absorption pulverization vortex. This one does some spin for about, this is a ton of damage, 1409. Pulls the enemies in that get caught in the spin. High guard break. And last but not least, we've got our 3D here. This one is a vibranium release build. It's called Subdue. It deals 30% additional damage when using vibration gauge, and also does a 30% additional guard damage when using vibration gauge. So we're not going to get into that necessarily if you're playing Cap. You guys are probably figuring out how to use your vibration gauge and all that. He swings his shield and creates a shockwave, 1100% damage with consecutive attacks that knocks down the enemy. So again, a very strong hitting ability. So those are the abilities that you're going to want and slash skills that you're going to want to use in these fights. I think they're all pretty solid. They're all pretty hard hitting. This is probably the longest cooldown one that I think we had. We see 9 seconds, 17 seconds, 14 seconds, 17 seconds, and 26 seconds. So yeah, that one's by far the longest one. Now from here, we will go ahead and look at the specializations. Before we go to the specializations, I do want to mention that the time that you're going to want to use this barrier is really in alliance raids or something, or maybe an invasion where you're more of a support build. Or if you're trying to survive in maybe a battle challenge, that's maybe when you want to sub this one out. You could find another one if you want for it. But again, notice the cooldown for this is very long. It's 40 seconds. So something to consider. Okay, the specializations that we've got here. So I've got some of these that are overlapping, like I mentioned. The reason that I want to show you those is because you could use those in lieu of some other builds. Or some other specs. I think that the ones we've got here are probably the best. The first one here, flag, this converts a % of defense into attack. Once this gets up to a full 10 out of 10, I think it's up to 30%. This is important because you do, again, want to hit hard. The second one we've got on here, let's see. This one, I want to give a specific shout out to Nep on this one. He was bringing this up. Now, remember when I talked about that first that hand-to-hand combat one, the one where it's the fist? That's where this comes in. So if you were using that ability, what this does is increases the damage, and I'll move this over just a little bit so you can see it a little better. It increases the damage of the first skill used within 6 seconds after using a hand-to-hand combat skill. Now, again, this is don't mind the 3.5% because it's not built up at all, but apparently when you're using this, you use that fist punch. I would plan your hardest hitting ability to use next that you know is going to land. All right, because this is where these multipliers come in, and you're going to get a bunch of damage from this. So make sure that you use this in combination with that with the punch skill, the one that had the fist coming through, and then go ahead. Well, you know you're using this, and then use a big ability next. So originally we were talking about the orange ability here, which was kind of like, wrong one there, is decreased damage received. I think that in general that this is fine. Again, you want to use this if you're being a support character, you need to survive. Maybe it's a battle challenge thing. If you're just doing DPS, I wouldn't necessarily want to use that. The next one we've got on here is combat spot weakness. This increases damage dealt to bleeding targets. It gets up to 30%. Again, another multiplier, so you want to make sure you land those bleeds. So pay attention to which your abilities are bleeding, because when those bleeds are on there, again, you want to do those combinations. So you get somebody to bleed, use a hand-to-hand combat, and then use a huge ability. You're going to hit a lot harder. That's what these combos are about. Make sure to use those. One of the other abilities we had here, let's find where's the reds? There we go. Applies percent of defense as defense rate, decreases damage received by a certain percent when successfully defending. Okay, this gets up to 10% defense and received by 30%. Again, you can swap this one out. This is a more defensive ability. If you're looking for a little bit more offensive one, you could maybe get it absorbs a certain percentage of damage dealt to enemy as HP. So I don't know. I mean, maybe it's you basically can survive a little bit longer in this one. You can decide. There's certainly other ones that maybe we could look at here. Champs absorb shield. We had some shield absorption. Maybe you want to use that to get a little bit more vibration gauge or absorb additional. Let's see. Combat increases. We have the one hand-to-hand combat item. Maybe we want to consider that. Duration of status effects. If that bleed you're finding is falling off too quickly, maybe you want to consider that. Guard damage, I'm probably not looking at that one there. Invulnerable upon sustaining fatal damage. That maybe is more of a PvP thing. I don't think you're going to use that in PvE. Guard gauge recovery, you're probably not going to use that one. So maybe, I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe this one if you want to build it up more, but that would be the only one I'd consider outside of this last spot when we were talking about either this one here as we're getting more defense, or if we wanted the one where we got some more absorption of damage dealt to enemy as HP. I don't know. You guys can decide that. It's a little bit maybe potentially min-maxing, but those are some of your good PvE options now, or for your PvE specialization options. Now let's talk companions. All right, so in the graphic here, you see America Chavez and Icarus on here. Again, we like to talk a lot about the companions where there are a lot of options out there. So ultimately, at the end of the day, you can think about what the best use for you in a certain situation is. These are the two that I wanted to specifically recommend. I talked to those guys a little bit about it. You know, they kind of are in the same boat, thinking they're good. Again, if you're not aware, you know, America Chavez, she gives a nice defense down, additional damage, or it's basically 30% more damage received. I personally love that. I think it's great. So anytime you're trying to do a ton of damage, you make sure, we talked about the bleed, the first-hand combat, the big ability. So as I'm bleeding, I'm making sure America Chavez is already out because it takes her a couple of hits to get that 30% down. And then I get my hand-to-hand combat there, and then I get my big hit ability. All of a sudden, that ability's got the bleeding target, the after the first-hand combat ability, the America Chavez debuff. That's where you rack stuff up, and it's get more and more and more and more damage. It's about those multipliers. Get those multipliers on there as much as you can. So I like America Chavez a lot. And Icarus, as I mentioned all the time, you know, where's he at on my list? I don't have him built very high. He just does good damage. That's it. I mean, he's just putting good damage out, pretty solid. Again, if you want to try somebody like a, you know, Athena or a Cersei because they get attack, or, you know, because you get a defense down, okay, fine. I think that's, you know, okay. But again, defense by 15%. Is that going to net more than 30% from America Chavez? Percentage-wise, no. But it's like, this is damage received by 30% and decreases the defense by 15%. So it depends what hit you get harder. I think Chavez is going to help there a little bit more. So gear-wise, you saw a lot in the skills when we were going through this. You know, we had a lot. Let's see, what do we have here? We had shield absorption, hand-to-hand combat we threw in there, shield absorption, and vibranium release. So, you know, when I look at that stuff, you know, we've got, and let's pull up the graphic again here. You can see we've got Dark Domain and Steampunk. So Dark Domain is attack, shield absorption. Steampunk is shield absorption and with the spearhead ability. So that's where we put these as kind of the top end or the gear that you sort of want to focus in. A lot of the other stuff on there, I wouldn't necessarily dive into. I just don't think they're that great. Now, again, if you find an ability or a build that you like, certainly comment below. Let me know what you think, or come to the Discord, which I mentioned is in the description below. Again, I want to shout out to JS and Anep, chatting about this a little bit, just sort of brainstorming on what we thought might be the best. Those guys play Cap way more than I do. I like to sort of bounce ideas off those guys, challenge some of the thoughts, and kind of refine to something that I think people can use and just snapshot and go, this one I'm gonna use. But it's important to understand how the build works, otherwise you're not gonna get the damage you want. So appreciate you guys making this far. If you find this helpful, you want to share with your alliance mates or grandma, grandpa, aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, always appreciate that. If you want to get future content, feel free to subscribe if you like, and or hammer down like button or notification bells. We'll appreciate you regardless for making it this far anyway. So until next time, we hope you have a wonderful day.